That's bad.
Alright, so behind me here is a bona fide hot rod. It might not look like it right now, but by the time we're done with it, this thing's going to be sweet. This is a 1978 Ford F350 ramp truck. And when it comes to patina, there's not much that's going to compete with this thing. This thing has such a great look to it. I mean, heck, it took this thing 45 years to look like this. So that's not getting touched at all. We are only here to do the mechanical work to it and make this thing the highway cruiser that it needs to be. Haul hot rods to the racetrack. So let's start at the captain's chair, see what we got going on in here. Those doors open great. So we're looking pretty good in here. Seats in actually really great shape. Nobody needs headliners anyway, they're just for show. They don't do anything. The dash isn't too bad. It's got, looks like 4 cracks across there, but trust me, I've seen and committed much worse. I don't know if I'd even touch that. Maybe a light sanding and spray something on it, but I wouldn't worry about it. Gauges all look good. It shows 69,000 miles. Nice. That's the perfect amount of miles. I don't know if it's 169 or actual 69,000. 69,434. Nice old stereo. Oh, that butt box is full. Got all the Marlboros in there. Nice trailer brakes for our trailer here. But yeah, this thing is in great shape. It's got all the luxuries you could need. You know, you can put it in forward and reverse. Blinkers to let people know when you're going to turn. And these wing windows are the only reason you ever need to drive an old car or truck. These things, God, I wish they'd bring them back. Then we got the bed back here. I don't know if I really want to dig into this. Alright. Basic utilities, tarp, gas can, oil, trailer hitch. Wouldn't take much to straighten that out. It's got a nice tie-down bar here. Hook your straps around it and then put this in here with a long lever, you know, tighten the chains. So that's pretty rad. It's got one over there. That one seems to be seized up though. Everything's looking pretty good. Looking like a ramp truck. But everybody's here to see the business side of things, so let's pop the hood real quick. There she is. This is a 400 cubic inch Ford backed by a C6 transmission. And it's all coming out of here. Oh yeah, it is gone. Now these 400s for a truck like this, just lugging away, good torque. These 400s a pretty decent motor, but this one is locked up tighter than the pastor's daughter, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing budging this thing. So it is coming out, because Dave, the guy who owns this truck, has something else in mind that is way better for what he's trying to do, which is cruise on the highway, get something resembling mileage, and haul his race car on the back. So we are pulling this thing out. I don't know, might toss it on a stand. Thought about trying to get it running in here, but we're hoping to have this thing running and driving in about 4 weeks. So I don't even want to waste any time messing with it. We'll just probably get straight to pulling it out of here and make room for our new motivator. Now, when it comes to moving around this big heavy lug of a truck, this thing's probably like 6,000 pounds, give or take, I don't know. And then add a 3,000 pound car on the back, you're looking at 9,000 pounds. He wanted to go with something a little bit more modern, overdrive, get rid of the C6 transmission, kick that thing to the curb, and something with some inches to it, you know, something that had some balls, something that had some grunt that could really move this thing pretty easily. So that is where this thing comes in. This is the 8100 Vortec, the 8.1. This is 496 cubic inches of absolute fuck you. And this is what we are swapping into the truck. Now, these are really good motors. The thing that sucks about them is there's dog shit aftermarket when it comes to modifying these. I didn't know that these had like the LS1 style throttle body. That's interesting. Huh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the aftermarket support for these is basically trash, which is really the bane of these things' existence. Because they are fantastic motors and they make really good power. Stock like this, it's 340 horsepower and 440 foot-pounds of torque, just like this, straight out of the box. And And actually, this came out of a box truck, so unintentional little pun there. Yeah. And there is a company called Raylar that does make aftermarket stuff for this. They make heads, intake, cams, but holy frick are they expensive. I was just looking at a set of heads for these, and their aluminum heads are, I want to say it was $4,300 for the pair. And then cam is, I think it was, I don't know if it didn't say cam and springs, I don't think, or lifters or anything like that. I think it was just the cam was $530. Intake was, I want to say another $1,000, but don't quote me on that. I just glanced at that. So yeah, just for the cost of heads alone for this, you could build a pretty good like 454. So that's a little bit of a bummer when it comes to these, but if you're going to do something like this, I think this is about as perfect of an application as you can get. Something that you're just going to haul stuff with. You're not trying to get maximum horsepower out of it, maximum RPM, anything like that. I think the red line for this is like 5,000 RPM or 52, somewhere around there. And you guys who know me, you know that I am, to put it, you know, politely, you know, your Sunday service kind of words, I'm a bit of a slut for RPM. So we've got to do a little bit of fabricating to make this thing work. It does have motor mounts that look suspiciously like a small block Chevy, so it shouldn't be too hard. But we have parts that Dave dropped off with it. A bunch of parts. Yes, here we go. So, these will go on the side of the block like that. And then these plates, might have to extend them or figure something out. We'll weld to the side of the frame. And that's how we will mount this thing. Oh, can't really see a whole lot right now, so we're going to have to get this thing torn apart first and then kind of figure out a game plan and hope that the oil pan and cross member and stuff aren't too much of a big deal. Now, I have looked at some forum posts and stuff like that and some of the Facebook groups, and I know that Amos, I think is how you pronounce his name, has done a swap like this, or a few swaps like this. So I know that all that's out there. Anybody who's going to suggest that, I appreciate it. I've already seen a lot of it. So now we're at the point of stop thinking about it and planning on how to do it and just start doing it. So I'm going to get the fluids drained out of this. Hopefully there's not a whole lot. And then pull the radiator, get the motor separated and all that. Might just sawzall the exhaust. I don't know how much of the exhaust is left in here. And then we'll start pulling this thing out. Today's video will probably be more of just pulling everything apart and going over a plan on how we want to go about this. And then probably in the next video, might hopefully get the engine and trans mounted in there and see how that goes. And then maybe in the third video, try and get things wired up, fuel system, stuff like that. So this video, we're just pulling it apart and kind of going over everything, trying to get our footing, see how we want to do stuff. And then because this engine is, I want to say it's 13,000 pounds, it might be a little bit fun getting it off the truck. I might see if my neighbor can come over with his tractor and lift it off. I might be able to get a chain on it and get the engine hoist up there, but I'd still like to pull the transmission off of it and do those separately. Worry about getting the engine mounted first and make sure everything's squared up in there, and then bolt the transmission up. That's how I would like to do it. I think it'll be a little bit easier, a little bit safer. I am definitely going to have to pull this hood off, aren't I? Yeah, I think I am. Alright, enough talking. I think it's time to get to work. Can't really see much in there. It's probably empty, right? And he did say that he wanted to replace this radiator too, so if we damage it getting it out, it's not a huge deal, but I'd like to keep it all in one piece. You know, you never know. That way, if anything goes wrong, we could put this back in. pissed on me. I got pissed on. Hitting the bolts. You are in the way. You hang out right there. There we go. Woo! Forgot how heavy these old radiators are. God dang. Alright, radiator's out of the way. Didn't make as much of a mess as I usually do, so that's good. I think our next order of business is going to be trying to get this hood off. And this would be a lot easier with a second person here, but I think I can do it by myself. I think. I'm going to loosen the top ones, take the bottom ones out so that I can kind of start to lean it forward so it doesn't try to take off. And then hopefully I can tilt it far enough that I can kind of slide it down and then I can grab it. That's my plan at least. We'll see how it works. Golly, I got dusted. So I'm going to go a little bit at a time. Alright, now that it's done and over with and worked perfectly, I can tell you that I did not have any confidence in that working. Look how much room we got now. Don't have to worry, we can go as high as we want. And got all the lighting. This is great. I need to go through, disconnect the wiring. I don't want to cut any of it, not yet. I know that a lot of the factory engine bay wiring is going to see you later, but I'm not ready to cut anything just yet, unless it goes to something on the engine that I know we're not going to use. Which honestly is probably going to be a lot of it. The only thing we really need is the starter wiring and the wiring to the distributor, stuff like that. So I'm just going to start pulling this thing apart. Alright, I got the top two bell housing bolts out already. I'm about to crawl underneath to do the bottoms, and it just occurred to me that I'm going to have to pull the engine out with the converter on it still, because this thing's seized up. I can't spin it over to get the bolts out. So, saves a little bit of time there, just ripping this thing right out. right, we got the 400 Ford out of this thing. Set it on some rollers so we can move it around, get it out of the way. And this thing, you'll notice, is a front sump pan. The 8.1 has a rear sump, which by all accounts is supposed to clear everything. I guess it'll just be above the steering. Don't know. So next up, we get the transmission pulled out of here, which shouldn't take long at all. And then might power wash this thing and kind of evaluate where things are at. Maybe take some measurements, see what we're doing. It almost looks like we can leave the factory mounts in place and then weld those ears to the side of it. You know, might have to trim them down, but something on the side like that. But like I said, we'll have to test fit, obviously, take some measurements, and then I'm sure we'll have to cut these down. Or who knows, maybe we'll end up pulling those completely out of there and welding these to the frame. We'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. And with this thing, man, I would prefer to leave it together. But I think as far as test fitting it goes, it'll be a lot easier to do just the engine by itself because it'll probably have to go in and out a bunch. I don't know. Let's get this transmission pulled out of here. All right, got the transmission out of the truck, and I kind of think that these C6s might be lighter than a Turbo 400. I don't know. This one just feels light. And boy, did I make a massive mess. Holy moly. That's... sheesh. So I think I'm going to push this thing outside, power wash the engine bay, probably power wash the floor in here too. But that is where we're going to end it for today's video. Hopefully in the next one we should be test fitting the new 8.1 and trying to get the motor mounts and everything made for that to get that actually mounted in the next video. And then we've just got exhaust, wiring, and fuel system pretty much, and cooling system, but radiator's not here yet. So like I said, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, clicking that bell to get the notifications. I'll see you next time.